Ever feel like your melodies are too basic or repetitive and just don't really capture your listener's attention? Well, you're not alone, because in today's video, I'll show you how to take a simple idea or motif and transform it into a really interesting, evolving, and engaging melody that's going to keep your listener hooked. Now, this is inspired from the sounds of Injuna Deep, Afterlife Colorized, Purified, those kind of labels, and this process will give your melodic house and techno tracks that pro-level edge. So let's dive in. Here we are in Ableton, and I have a track here which is demonstrating this point. There are a few couple of things that I want to show you with this. This is from one of my recent remixes of Tribe by Sleepless Skies, and I've turned off a few of the parts here, but at essence, the main driving force of this track is this motif here, which sounds like this. Like a simple idea, and then it just sort of loops over and over again, right? I then experiment with some more interesting evolution to that pattern. If we look at the MIDI here, we've got this like pretty simple pattern. Da, 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 da. It's that same rhythm, right? And then there's a little variation at the end to like bring it back home, and at the same at the end of the 8-bar section, so just listen to it again. Same pattern, different notes. Little variation. A variation there. Two important parts here which are making this interesting. So this was the basic idea that I started with. You've got this core idea, da, 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 da. That's like the rhythm. And then like a little variation which is emphasized at the end of the 4th bar and also the 8th bar. There's also a little variation here as well. It's usually good to emphasize your variations around the end of every 4 bars and 8 bars, so it helps the loop turn back round. So in context of the track, it sounds like this. Pretty cool, eh? However, after 8 bars of that, I then add in additional variations and rhythmic changes. So again, keeping that same core rhythm and pulse, da, 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 I added in extra notes up an octave and just sort of as and when I see fit in terms of pitches. So now it has more interest in evolution. Check it out. Adding in these extra notes here. Right? It's a fairly simple thing to do. Just add in some additional notes here and there as your track evolves. It'll be more interesting and have more of a progressive feel to it. And this track as well is not comprised of that many elements. The way I'm keeping interest is by having the MIDI, the programming, be interesting as well, right? And if you go a bit further into the arrangement here, this is the next 8-bar section here, and I've added in even more variations. So it gets even more complicated. But again, just using that same principle, adding in different notes. So check this out. Keeping that same motif, da, 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 going, adding in those additional notes there really makes this track evolve and be interesting for longer whilst not using that many elements. So let's just do this again from scratch. So I'll tell you what, I'll just delete the MIDI here and we can start with something simple. So let's just create something fairly simple, like a little simple rhythmic idea, a completely new one. Kind of in a da-da-da-da-da. Just using that same sound, I've just edited a bit so it's a bit shorter, but let's add in a new rhythm. So think first about the rhythm, and then you can start playing with the notes. I'm doing this on the 3rd degree of the scale. Dun, 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 dun. Something like that. That's quite a nice little pattern. And then let's maybe have a... Just following the chord progression for now. And then maybe go back up. We could add in a few extra little variations here in terms of we can add in a few different pitches. Something like that. I quite like that little pattern. Maybe go like that. Dun, 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 dun. Something like that. And then at the end here, let's add in a little flourish or something. So it goes did. Or something like this. So that's pretty basic to start with, but maybe we could add in... Maybe we could have this go up as well. Let's see what this sounds like. Maybe you have it going up, then down, and then down again. So we're just like copying the same pattern here. Maybe go down this time, so... So it's a pretty simple idea that we've made a little bit more interesting, but this is where the magic happens. If you press duplicate, we now have this 8-bar loop rather than a 4-bar loop. So now we can add in the variations, which are going to create more interest. So maybe this time, maybe pitch this one up an octave. And then this variation here, keep it the same. You don't want to change it too much. Maybe go do this time. And keep that the same, but this time could be at the end, this kind of final loop back bit. Maybe something like that. See what it sounds like now. So pretty cool, right? Now, we could also duplicate this again. So this is now a 16-bar loop. But what I actually might do is just actually have this in a separate MIDI clip so it's a bit easier to manage and just make this one the 8 bars. So for the next time, here, let's just focus in on this part here. Let's maybe add in some additional notes just to make it a bit more interesting. Maybe have... quite like that little extra note there. You don't have to do anything super crazy. And this time around, let's duplicate that again. So we have, this can maybe go up an octave. And let's have another variation here. Maybe. That might sound quite nice. So now let's listen to the full 16 bars here. So the key really here is not swaying too far away from the core idea, but you can start with something simple and just make it a little bit more interesting over time. So start thinking about the rhythm first, then start thinking about pitch, and then think, okay, what can I do to make this interesting? So you could start with literally a 1-bar loop or 2-bar loop. I'd probably say 4-bar loop. And that way you can create something a little bit more special when you start thinking it rather than, okay, I'm just going to loop this 4-bar or 8-bar over and over again. Like, make it into a 16-bar with variations or 32 bars with variations, and that's really going to take your music to the next level. And obviously, it's not just melodies you can add variations in. You should be adding variations in probably all of your parts if you really want to sound pro. We can do another quick example here. So let's just, again, start with a 2-bar. Let's start with a 4-bar loop this time, and let's do something a little bit more spicy, perhaps. So we could have, like, go up an octave. Ding. I quite like that. Let's copy that. That's a nice little pattern. It's got repetition in as well, which is always good for melodies. Maybe repeat it. Maybe have a little note here. Actually, let's do this. And then to loop it back. So it'll sound like this. So you see where that's going. That's quite nice. Let's just loop this all the way for now. So we've got this idea here. I could make this one a little bit more interesting, maybe. Just drop this down for the second time. Drop this down for the last 2 bars. And then maybe go. Just drop this one down to keep it interesting. Maybe this one could go up here. That's quite cool. Like, simple repeating pattern, right? Nothing super crazy, but let's maybe add in a variation to bring it back home. We could have... like... See what it sounds like with this additional note I've just added in at the end. That's quite nice. We've got that core idea. Let's duplicate that again. And then this second time around, maybe we could have a slight variation somewhere. So you could still keep that same rhythm, but then maybe have... So... rather than do-do-do, we could go. That could be quite cool. Just pitch this one up to the root note here. So pitch this one up, and then have a variation here. Maybe we have this. It's like something like that. Let's see what this sounds like now. That's pretty cool. And then duplicate it again, and we could maybe add in just like a couple of extra random notes here and there in the gaps. So maybe I think here we could pitch one up an octave. Like that could be quite cool. And maybe in this one here we could go up an octave as well. But what I'm going to do is just kind of copy that same rhythm. So the same variations here. Just over. And then maybe change the notes this time. So here it goes. So. That could work nicely, and then... Then for this last part, let's do something a bit crazy. Go. I don't know. Let's see what that sounds like in context of everything. So now we have this 16-bar loop. Let's check it out. So this is a lot more interesting, and it's not going to get as repetitive. Like, you don't want to, as I said, stray too far away from the repetition, because that's what's going to really drill the idea into somebody's head. But the problem is, if it's just doing the same thing over and over again, it's going to get boring very quickly and so repetitive. So what keeps it fresh is the variations and the little changes you throw in. Like, they can, to a certain extent, be somewhat random. In this case, this is additive variation. We've added things in, but you could also do harmonic variation, or melodic variation, you could call it, by changing some of the pitches of notes, changing some of the pitches of the existing notes, like we did here as well, right? Lots of really amazing things you can do with melodies. Like, if you want to go check out the full track, it's in the link in the description as well, by the way. If you want to go check out the full track, it's in the link in the description, so you can get the full context over the arrangement. And there you have it. That's a simple process for creating evolving and interesting melodies for melodic house and techno. If you want to go deeper on this, join my free school community for full courses on melody writing, mixing, arrangement, and much, much more. Plus, we also do live track feedback calls. You can submit music to us and we'll listen live and tell you what you're doing right, what you could fix, and basically how to get it finished and ready to go. Plus, much, much more. The link is in the description. It's totally free to join. We have over 1,000 members, all just like you, wanting to make awesome music. And we're here to make it happen for you. So yeah, go to the link in the description, join. And while you're at it, please do hit the like and subscribe. It really helps me out. And also comment what you're struggling with most with music production, and I can make a video for you. How about that? Let me know what topics you'd like to see next, and I'll see you in my school community.